Hi, I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns, America's most recommended yarn brand. Red Heart has partnered with the Red Cross to invite you to stitch a hug for those in need. Red Cross serves families that have lost their homes to fires or hurricanes or other disasters. This is a heartfelt opportunity for you to use your passion for knitting or crochet to create something special for someone in need. A blanket that can be used by the Red Cross in disaster relief efforts across the U.S. All you need is some Red Heart yarn, a free pattern for making the Red Heart Cares blanket, and information on where to get your stitched hug to those in need. Just in case you need a little help, I've created a couple tutorials, one for knitting and one for crochet, to show you how to make the Red Heart Cares blanket. So let's go ahead and jump in and make the Red Heart Cares blanket for someone in need. Let's stitch a hug with this crochet version of the Red Heart Cares blanket. Look down here, I'm going to show you what you need to get started. The first thing you're going to need to get is some red and white yarn from Red Heart. You can use Super Saver or With Love or Soft. The free pattern available on redheart.com lists the yarn amounts for each one of those yarns, so you can choose your favorite one. You're also going to need a size J or 6mm crochet hook, a tapestry needle. I like to use the steel bent tip tapestry needles because they're easier for me to weave in my ends and to sew the squares together. And last but not least, I'm going to add that you need to get 2 stitch markers. The reason I'm having you get stitch markers is I use them to help you understand where the beginning and the end of your row is located. Go ahead and gather your materials along with the free pattern. Once again, it's available on redheart.com. Join me back here. I'm going to show you what you need to know to get started, and we can make our Red Heart Cares blanket. The crochet version of the Red Heart Cares blanket is made up of squares and rectangles. You will chain the same amount for both the squares and rectangles, but you will work a different number of rows. Look down here, I'm going to get you started. The first thing we're going to do is begin with a slip knot on our hook. To make a slip knot, you place the yarn on the palm of your hand, take the working yarn, wrap it around your forefinger and middle finger and back up. When I come back up, I want to cross over the loop I created originally, turn my hand over, and then I'm going to take my hand, go underneath the front loop, and grab the loop from behind. Once I do that, I remove my fingers and pull. Let's do that one more time. I have the tail in my palm of my hand. I'm going to take the working yarn, wrap it around my forefinger and my middle finger, come around. When I come back up, I cross over. When I cross over, I turn my hand. Go ahead, take this hand. I'm going to go underneath the front one, grab the back one, and pull up. I'm going to place that slip knot onto my hook, and this is a reminder, you are never going to count the loop on your hook as a stitch. So this slip knot at this point in time is not a stitch. Now for the blanket, you're going to chain a number of 35 chains. For the sample here, I'm just going to do 11 chains, okay? So to do a chain, what you do is you take your hook, you're going to go underneath the yarn, grab it, and then we're going to pull this loop through the slip knot that's on our hook. What I like to do is if I take my hook and if I rotate my hook this way, you can see that the loop on my needle here kind of looks like a teardrop. So by rotating my hook and making that pointy end come through the bottom of my teardrop, it makes it really easy to pull that stitch through. Let's do that again. I yarn over, and instead of pulling through and kind of going like that, see how that wants to grab at that loop? I'm going to rotate my hook and now pull it through. See how that goes through very easily? Do that one more time. Yarn over, come, rotate, and pull through. Now I have 3 stitches right here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my left hand, and you can see that we have these nice V's on the top of the stitch. I'm going to take the palm or the bottom, the pad of my thumb, and rest it on the V of those stitches just to keep them nice and flat and straight. Then I'm going to go ahead and continue on chaining. By doing this, I'm ensuring that my stitches right here at the beginning don't become twisted. So about every third stitch, I move the pad of my thumb up and I rest it along those stitches. So that's 9, 10, 11. So now I have 11 stitches, okay? So if you're going to do 35 for your square or your rectangle, that's great. Just imagine that this is 35. The instructions then say we're going to single crochet in the second chain from hook. So you never count the chain on your hook, skip one, and there's the second chain. I'm going to take my hook, go into the second chain, yarn over the hook just like I was doing when I did my chains, and pull that yarn over through the chain I went into. Now I have 2 loops on my hook, right? So I yarn over and I pull that yarn over through those 2 loops. This is where my stitch marker comes in handy. I'm going to take my stitch marker and in the top of the stitch that I just created right back here, this V, I'm going to place my stitch marker through the V, okay? What this is going to do is it's going to tell me when I come back down this row, this is the last stitch of my row. It's going to really help you maintain a nice even edge. Now I go ahead and I single crochet into each chain to the end. So I go into the next chain over, go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Last one, into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Now at the end of my row here, because I chained 11 and I skipped one, I'm going to have 10 single crochets. At the end of your first row, you're going to have 34. What you're going to do now is you're going to chain 1 and turn, or you can turn and chain 1. Either way works. And then you're going to begin doing single crochets into the top of these single crochets that you've just created. So we have these nice single crochets. This very first one, we're going to go ahead and put a single crochet there. I go into that space, making sure that both legs of the V, you see that, are on my hook. So I'm in those stitches, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. This is where my second stitch marker comes in handy. I go ahead and I put it into the top of the V of that stitch I just created. Again, this is going to help me keep my edge nice and even. Then I carry on. Go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. I'm going to carry on doing this down the row, and I'm going to speed up a little bit here so I can get to the end of the row and show you how these stitch markers work. It's all too often that we will make something that's supposed to be a square or a rectangle and we accidentally skip a stitch or add too many stitches. So these stitch markers really do help you not do that. So I'm down here, I'm at the end of the row, and you can see this stitch right here. My stitch marker is in it. So I know that that is the last stitch of my row. So I could put my hook in, yarn over, pull up, and pull through 2. So I know I have a nice edge. Once again, I either turn and chain 1 or chain 1 and turn. I go ahead, put my single crochet into that first stitch. After I do that, I move my marker up from the row below into the new V. Can you see it? It's right there. It's the V of the stitch. And I carry on down the whole row. These squares and rectangles are just made up of single crochets. So you don't have to do a lot of other stitches. You don't even have to know a lot of other stitches. Once you know this single crochet stitch, you're ready to go. You can make all the pieces to this blanket. What you're going to do, you can see I'm at the end here, see the marked stitch? See how easy that is? You're going to end up making 10 squares with color A, 5 squares with color B, and then you'll make 10 rectangles with color A. Once you have all that, you're going to follow along on the diagram for the placement of these squares and rectangles, and you're going to whip stitch them together. Go ahead and complete your squares and rectangles. Join me back here, and I'm going to show you how to do a whip stitch for the crochet stitches. Once you've finished all of your squares and rectangles, what you're going to do is pull out the diagram for the placement. Once you have all of those placed where they need to go, you're going to whip stitch them together. If you look down here, you can see I have 2 little samples, and I've left all of my tails on the samples. One of them I've left super long on purpose because I'm going to use my tail to whip stitch this together. Now you don't have to do this. If you want to use your own like one long string to whip stitch everything together, you absolutely can. But if you're like me and want to save a little time and not have extra ends to weave in, using your tail is a great way to do that. Just leave a tail that's long enough to get through the entire row of your whip stitch. I'm going to use my bent tip tapestry needle right here, and I'm going to thread my tail onto it. Really easy to do that. You pinch the yarn around the eye of the needle, grab the needle out, and just wiggle that eye right onto that yarn, and it pulls through. Really super easy. Now here at the beginning, you don't have to join with a figure 8, but I like to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and begin with that. Now I want you to notice I have the right sides facing me, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this first stitch over here from underneath. I'm going to go back over here to where the stitch came out and go underneath, and I've joined with a figure 8, okay, because it was joined back and back. Now I can come back over here and come back up if I want to. So let's go ahead and do that. I wouldn't really need to though because the yarn is already joined. So now this is really convenient. I have my edges lined up like right there, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to go in one side and out the other. So I'm going to go in this side, and you can grab both legs, you can grab just the front leg, it's up to you. I'm going to grab both legs, and then on the corresponding stitch on the red, I'm going to grab both of those legs and come up. Okay? So I'm going to pull that through. Then I come back over here. I go in. I'm going to grab both legs, come over here, grab both legs, and come out. This is a whip stitch. If you are looking for a different way to join your squares together, there are other methods you could check out. I do have some methods on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. You can try out if you want, but honestly this is the easiest, fastest, and pretty secure method to be able to join your squares together. Once they're all joined together in this way, you would go ahead, place them all out, use your tapestry needle to weave in all your extra ends, and you're done. Once you've finished your blanket, go to the Red Heart Facebook page and use the hashtag #ShareAHug to share photos of your crocheted masterpiece with us. Thank you so much for joining this effort, and to find out more information of how you can help, go to redheart.com/Red Cross. I'm Marley Bird. Thanks.